Hi, Andre. Welcome to Mama Talk Talks, a different take.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So let me just ask, first of all, do you go by Dre or Andre? Which do you prefer?
That's a good question. I go Andre is my birth name. So Andre is what I would prefer, but everyone calls me Dre, so I've been called Dre for more than 10 years.
Okay.
I take it. So
I'll
Dre works. Dre is perfect.
Okay, I'll pretend that we're friends and we go back 10 years and I'll call you Dre.
That
Okay.
works. That
So
works.
please introduce yourself to our viewers.
Awesome. Well, I think we already sorted out the name part, right?
Yes.
Well, the full name is Dre Kemayou. I am based in Dallas, Texas. I am many things, but I would say that, I am a father. I'm a husband. I am a creative. I am into technology. I'm into anything that makes the world shine. So I
Ooh.
think that, I just like to. I'm what you call a jack of all trades, a master of none. I like to dabble into a lot of things, and I don't really care that you don't have mastery in it, as long as you're living within your purpose and there's joy within that. I think I really believe so much in that. So I just live. I just do things that cause for me, you know. So
Yeah.
that's really what I am.
That's awesome. And this
Yeah.
is the reason why I don't try to introduce people on my show, because what I go by is like a LinkedIn bio or something on your
Yeah.
website or whatever. But when you actually talk to people and you tell them to introduce themselves, they usually have a very different concept of self than what is
Yeah.
posted on some website somewhere, right? So
Yeah.
that's why I do it this way. So I'm sure you
That's
get this
true.
question all the time. I'm going to ask it anyway. Any relation to Elvis Kemayou?
Oh my God. If I had $1 for each time I was asked that question. No. Let's clear that up on Mama Talk Talk. There's no relation to Elvis Kemayou whatsoever. And I was not named after him.
Okay. All
So
right. I just
my
check.
I'm Bamleke. So it's a normal Bamleke name. It's kind of like a Ngum in Mancon or
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But in
Kemayou
full,
is a very common name. More
okay.
common than most people would think.
But that's what happens, right? One person takes a name that's common in a community
Mm-hmm.
and gets famous, and then everybody thinks that person or that name is unique because it's
Yeah.
unique to them,
It's unique to
right?
them.
Then every other
Exactly.
person you meet is like, are you related to Elvis Kemayou? So I just wanted to clear that up. I had
I
done
used
my
to
research, figured out you
I
weren't,
used
but
to
I
get
could
that a
ask that
lot.
name.
I used to
You used
get
to
that a
get that a
lot in
lot?
school. Yeah.
Mm. And you didn't just rock it like, oh yeah, that's my uncle's
You know
show.
what? For the first year or two, I think I rocked it.
Thanks for telling the truth.
And I got a lot of notoriety for it too. But I think
That's
eventually it became obvious that there was no link. So
the link. They started asking you to come sing at school, and you couldn't hold up your end of the bargain. It didn't quite work.
no, I never got any unusual request. I
Okay.
think people were just impressed. Just like, oh, okay. But that was it.
Believe it or not, I still get the kind of, oh, you're Gerard Frick's niece. I'm like,
Ah,
yeah, yeah. And it's not that people make requests. It's just, I don't know if you remember the Let's Make a Baby video from Depuis
let's
Depuis.
make up. Yes, someone actually
Oh,
revived that video on Facebook. That used to be my
really?
jam. I used to love that song.
I would love to see. I'm the little girl in the video.
No
Uh,
way.
I was 8 years old.
I was
I'm
wondering
just
where you were going with that. Really? Wow, that's something.
yeah,
So, but you
yeah.
guys are not related.
No, that's my uncle.
Oh, that's your uncle. Okay,
That's my
okay.
mom's older brother.
Where is he now?
He's based between the US and Cameroon.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Wow,
So
that's awesome.
I rocked it, but mine was for real rock age.
No, yours was for real. Yours was legit.
I would have the video to show it.
Yours was
Uh,
legit.
so it's really, really amazing for me to have you on the show. and I have to give a shout out to Sonia Mofo, because after she came on the show, she was like, you have to get this person. I'm like, I don't know who this is. And then she sent me your Instagram feed, and I go on there. I'm like, okay, I don't know the brain behind this, but I've been on the site. I love what's going on there. And of course, I'm talking about the African Creative. Mm-hmm. So before we get there, I just have to take a minute and talk about what is going on in America right now. Mm. Minneapolis, I think of as my home in the US. I went to high school there. After CPC Valley, I went to university there, went away for law school, came back, got married there. My first professional job was there. I had my son there. So seeing all these things has been difficult for me, because I'm thinking this is a place that in a way for me, in so many ways, is home. Mm-hmm. Where is your heart in watching all this? Where's your spirit? Where's your heart as you watch all this stuff about George Floyd?
I'll tell you the truth. Like most Black people, like most parents, with sons, I have 3 sons. We're still trying to make sense out of this. This is obviously not new. And just to go back to Minnesota, from what you said, I've never known Minnesota to be, that kind of place.
That's the thing.
So that's really what surprised me, amidst all of this. But it's proving now, with more information coming out, I think latest update just came out that this officer who actually had the knee on the dude's neck, this is just breaking news. It just came out that him and, Floyd used to work at a club together. So they know each other. Yeah, that's breaking news. I mean, you can look it up after the show.
Oh my word!
That makes it even more, just I don't know.
Oh my heart!
Basically, what we're all thinking, this guy literally used the badge as a crutch to murder this guy, and besides that, it's just it's not just him. It's Philando Castile. It's the names. I mean, you can go back to my 20 years in the U.S. Every year,
Amadou Diallo
at least Amadou Diallo in New York. I mean, I don't even know. Just Aubrey, just from a couple of weeks ago. Even though that was not an officer, that guy was a former police officer. Yeah. It's just it's gotten me to the point where I'm seriously considering just leaving the United States. To be very honest with you, I've been thinking about it for a long time. It wasn't because of this, but this has probably gotten me to that point. There's something about this particular one. It hit me differently because. Yeah. Watching it live, first of all, because everything else, all the other ones, we would see it on video. This one is like, it's like you keep watching it and you're reliving it. And secondly, it happened in broad daylight in front of hundreds of people at probably one of the busiest streets in Minnesota. And then not only that, I think what stands out to me the most is the fact that his partners stood guard, just waiting for everything to happen. No one stepped up and say, hey, I think officers know each other very well. Officers know who is capable of crossing the line every once in a while. I think they know because they have that culture, right? I was a criminal justice major in college. So I've done internship at the police station. I've done all of that. I've done ride-ons with ride-alongs. We used to call those ride-alongs with the police officer, just so you can get that final. And I know how they operate to a certain extent, and I know that one person could have went to this guy and say, dude, even if it's just a whisper and just do this, I think it's good. I think it's good. He's detained now. Let him go. And the seconds went by, the minutes went by, and they drew the last out of this guy. And I was just, to this day, I'm just so upset about it. I usually don't do politics on my page, but I had to talk about it. And looking at the response from the followers, clearly they wanted me to. So it's just been crazy. It's been crazy. You question.
And is it even politics? Is it even politics? It's life. Right?
Yeah, it's life.
What I said to a friend of mine yesterday was just take the American context out of the question. Take race out of the question. And just be somebody who just came from La La Land into the world and what you know is human beings are human beings, and then you watch this thing, it's still as horrific as if you add all this context around it, right? And I think it's very easy to forget that when you start to racialize it. And of course, there are racial components all over, but I keep saying, even if you take away color and the history of police brutality, just watching one human being do that to another human being is enough to make us stop and think, what in the world, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of throw that onto the whole Cooper situation in Central Park. This week, I was just like,
Yeah.
Jesus, take the wheel. I just was like, I can't.
Yeah, that did it for me. That did it for me. And that's not
Yeah.
the first one. There's so many videos. I mean, if you just scroll through your timeline on Facebook, you would see examples being shared by everyone, you know, of that exact situation. I've had encounters with the police myself. I just had one, I would say 3 weeks ago, where not to that level, but I was uncomfortable, you know, and I think race has everything to do with it. The fact that, you know, I mean, you talk about fear all the time. The fact that they fear us so much that they just want to kill us. I think it's real. I think when people talk about it and make light of it, it's like it's not a thing. But when you go back and you look at the statistics, it's a serious thing, and we need to stand up and take it very, very seriously. And that's one of the reasons why the Black people being you know, divided as much as we are, it's so disheartening, because there's a reason they're afraid of us, because when we're united, we're so powerful, you know, that it's like they're running and they're looking behind themselves and they're saying, hey, are they catching up yet? You know, despite all the odds, despite all the things we've been through, we're still rocking, we're still going, you know, and they just can't stand it. You know, it's a real thing.
You know, at times like this, I really try to balance reason and emotion, because both have a place. And I say that because when you say they, what I'm hearing you say is police officers. And I've had positive interactions with police officers.
Yeah.
And I have had side-eye interactions with police officers.
Right.
So the thing about this that's really troubling is when you see these kind of police officers, it is very easy to forget that there are some who are good and who are decent.
Yeah.
Because there's something about our society, right, where, you know, we used to talk about the empty vessels make the loudest noise. The people who add the least value tend to make the most noise. And so this narrative is a really ugly one, right? And you start to think, and I have to say this, because if we wholesale throw out the police, what are we left with, right? In the context of a system that's supposed to protect us, people who are supposed to protect our children, if we throw that out wholesale, what are we looking at? But there need to be some really deep systematic changes that take place. But we've been saying this since Amadou Diallo. We've been saying this since
I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about systematic change. When I said I wasn't referring to the police. I was referring to the system. I was referring to the system. I get that a lot, that they are great cops. Yeah, they are great cops. They're supposed to be. You know, nowadays we say there are good cops out there. That just tells you, if we have to say that, that just tells you how bad the situation is. You know, it's like someone saying, oh, he's a good guy. I tell them all the time, he's supposed to be a good guy. We're all supposed to be good human beings. You know, it's not a compliment to be a good person. I mean, that's your point. That's what you're supposed to be.
I like that.
So if there are two great cops who work in a bad system, it still makes it a bad system.
You're right.
You know? So the problem is not the cops. If you're a good cop who follows exactly what the bad system tells you to do, that makes you a bad person in my book. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this situation is, like you said, it's systematic. It's not something that just started. This is not a new trend. It just morphed something different. You know, this is something that goes back to slavery. We were not considered, as Black people, we weren't considered human beings. You know, when you go back to the I mean, you probably know all this, being a lawyer, better than I do. I can't even list the examples, but just going back to my little knowledge, you go back to Crime Bill of 1994, you go back to I mean, I don't know. We are not considered humans. So
Yeah.
it's a system that holds that in every sector of this country.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So
I do.
it's when we understand that we realize that coming together it's more important. But trying to fight it, as fragmented as
In
we
a
are, it's
yes.
never going to work. This is always going to continue. This is
Yeah.
always going to continue. So yeah, I agree with you. They are great. They're great police officers. Absolutely. And the good ones, you know what happens to them? They get fired. They lose their jobs because they're not, towing the line.
Yeah.
That's what happens to them.
Yeah. And the reason why I say that is because, and you're so right. I mean, one of the things that I took critical race theory in law school, right?
Okay.
And had to, part of that course was looking at this whole narrative around black male, what's the word? Fear of the black male, basically.
Yeah.
And of course, we had to look at Emmett Till and it was Emmett Till, it was the Central Park Five, it was Kobe Bryant, it was a slew, right? And so when the Amy Cooper incident happened, I was just like, okay, my heart can only take so much at any given time. I talked about it with a few friends and I parked it and I said, we're going to have to come back to digest this another time. Yeah. But I'm having this conversation with you also because as all this information is coming out, I saw a few video snippets where James Baldwin was talking about race in America, right? And the thing that it made me think about, James Baldwin, as you know, I don't know if everybody who's listening knows, great American poet, essayist, novelist, and activist. And he challenged racial, sexual, and socioeconomic disparities in America. He really called us to order on that. And as I was listening to that, I kept thinking, what is the role of the artist in a modern day world? What is our role as writers, as painters, as musicians, as choreographers? What is the role of the artist, Dre, in the modern world, or in the way you call it, the creative? What is our role?
That's an excellent question. As creatives or artists or however you want to call it, we are first communicators. We are the ones that actually drive culture. When you really think about it, creatives drive culture. I'll give you an example. When you look at Nollywood, look at Nigeria as a whole, for what it was known for prior to Nollywood and what it's known for now. That country changed just because of the creative sector. Creatives are the ones that bring in sponsorship. They're the ones that bring in brands. Our role in this, I would say, is to tell the truth. That's the first thing. We have to keep an archive of everything that's happening, and I think that's working, because even if we're just doing it for posterity, even if we're doing it for my future grandson to know that this is the history, I think it's very, very important to hold on to that. But also, we have extraordinary artists, writers that they don't have the power to change the system, but they have the power to create a movement that would eventually plant a seed that would change the system.
Yes.
So the beautiful thing about creativity is, and this is one of the things that my platform stands for, an artist is not just someone who paints or someone who writes or someone who takes pictures. An artist could be a lawyer that creates change within the job sector, kind of like what you're doing, right? You're a creative. You see what I'm saying? A creative could be working for IBM. A creative could be a senator, So creatives are the ones that actually take the time to dig deep and think within. We're the ones that like to think outside the box. We're the ones that, we're always what is it that they say, the square peg in a round hole or whatever. Yeah. We're always those that think a little extra. Those are the people. And to answer your question, we have to, one, make note of it and decipher it for those who are not able to. Those are the ones that
Yes.
are out there rioting right now.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
two, we try to make meaning of it as much as possible. And then, you know, kind of like drive, you know, we drive culture. We're culture drivers. That's what we do. Our role is to drive culture, holding on to these stories. So that would be my answer. That's what I would say.
I really like that, especially the idea that creatives is not limited to artists, right? Because that was the question I was going to ask you, is who or what is a creative? And just going into the actual work that you do in this space, what is the African creative and why did you create that platform and that community?
The interesting story about the African creative is that what it is today is not what it was when I started it.
I'll just be honest.
I'll just be honest with you. When I started the movement, because what it is now, it's turning into a movement. It was really more of an opportunity for me to have a place where I could share my art. My weapon of choice is the camera. I speak through my lens. I take pictures of everything, anything. And I've been shooting since 2010. So that's 10 years now.
Yeah.
And most of that professionally. Creating a page like the African Creative was a platform for me to be able to showcase my work, because I realized I couldn't get my work featured anywhere. You know, I wanted to get into Vogue. I wanted to, you know, get into Elle magazine and all of that stuff. And I couldn't, because you had to fit a certain criteria. You have to have 200,000 followers. You have to have, you know, things like that. And I'm not the popular type. So I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to go ahead and create my own page and call it this. And not only me, I realized that a vast majority of African creatives were when you look at the global context, were so much underrepresented, you know, that it was just, to me, it was just ridiculous. So I wanted to create a space where I will not only feature my work, I will feature the works of other creatives. And my main goal was not to focus on the ones who have already made it. My goal was to focus on the hidden gems, the creative in Senegal, the creative in somewhere in the village in Nigeria, who does wonderful art, but no one gets to see it. That was the main purpose of it.
Yes.
We still hold true to that to this day. But what it has really morphed into, it has turned into a movement where everyone now agrees with it, and they're like, whoa, this is actually something that we needed, because they realized there was a lack in the market. There was no market studies done. This was just an Instagram page I was creating. I wasn't starting a business. You see what I mean? And the whole reason why I didn't put my face on the brand initially was because I didn't want them to know it was me, because I already have an Instagram page with my work. If no one is going to recognize it, why would they recognize my name on it? So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it differently this time. I'm going to create a page, post most of my pictures, but I'm not giving myself credit for it, and see what the people think. So that's how it started. And then eventually I realized that, okay, people are actually feeling this idea. So I started curating. I started taking works from other people. Like, oh, I like this stuff. I'm going to post it and see what the followers think. I like this. And one day I came back and the page had 5,000 followers. I was like, whoa, my personal page doesn't have up to 5,000 followers, you know? So I just kept posting and posting and posting, and it's turned into the machine that it is now. And now my mission I've doubled down on my mission. Now I've taken it to the point where I want to change that narrative, because there's something about that African narrative that lets me know that this is catching fire. You know, what did people expect out of Africans? You know, did they expect this level of excellence? Did they expect this level of beauty? Did they expect this level of execution? Did they expect this level of strength? They didn't. So I'm going to give them more of that. And just to let them know that we are here and we are here to stay, and we've always been here. So in essence, I'm educating. And I realized something else that's so special, AB. I realized that I'm not only educating the West, I'm also educating Africans.
You know what? You literally were vibing. You took it
Yeah.
out of me. But my next question was going to be, isn't it amazing that we're bringing this stuff to Africans as well?
Yep.
Because let's not pretend or assume that we know just because you're African or you live on the continent that you know.
Mm-mm.
And your story about the artist in some remote part of some country that
Mm.
nobody knows about. I was in Gaborone 2 or 3 years ago, I don't remember now. And I happened to stumble upon a visual arts center.
Right.
And the work was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. So I was asking one of the artists, I said, so how do you get your work out? And they said it's really, really hard. Every once in a while, they'll have a gallery from South Africa
Yeah.
as for their work, but that's really it. And I looked around me and their stuff was amazing.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate the work you do. And I think
Thank you.
artists need a platform. I know that creatives are more than just artists, but I think artists do need a platform because for a lot of them, it's great to have the creatives who work at IBM or in my case, work in the corporate world, we have a different source of income. Some of them don't.
Right.
So what you're doing to the extent that you can actually help them make a career out of it is fantastic. And the other thing that I was just thinking about is I love when somebody has a dream and it's defined. And you just said you wanted to shoot for Vogue and Elle and all of this, and one of the criteria, something around 200,000 followers. You are at 46.7 thousand now, I think, on my last check this morning.
Yeah.
So I don't know your followers, but they're going to know me now.
Yeah.
I'm going to step into your world, followers of African Creative, and I'm going to ask you, one sister to her family, let's get Dre 200,000 followers.
Hey.
Because this is the thing. If you love what you see and you believe in it, you've got to tap somebody on the shoulder and say, sign up. This is what we're doing. And I can say that in all candor because I've been on that page. I love that work. And I don't just love it because I'm African. I love it because it is beautiful, fantastic work.
Yeah.
And the many different facets of Africans and African society that it brings to life is wonderful. So talk to your friends and your families and everybody and get them to sign up and follow African Creative and get you 200,000 followers. So I didn't even know I was going to do a plug for you, but I really love when people have a dream and whatever I can do to support.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, Dre, I always leave some time at the end of the show for our 10 questions. But before we get there, I wanted to ask you, just in terms of, you are in IT during the day and you're in this world at night and you do this work. So you yourself are having to balance two worlds, right?
Yeah.
And so in a way, a lot of the people that you represent on your Instagram page and your website are in that same situation. My question to you is, what is it that we can do to support creatives? If I wanted to support someone, what is the best way to do it? I know you can buy their product, but those are not easily sourced either. So what is the best way to support some of the artists on your page?
That man, you are coming with some really, really excellent questions. I ask myself that question all the time as well. Now that I have the platform, what more can I do? Because just posting the images isn't enough. I'll give you an example. Because of COVID-19, I had to put some stuff on hold. The African Creative doesn't just have an Instagram. It's not just the Instagram page. The Instagram page is just one dimension of what we do. Another thing that we do is that we actually have sit-down interviews shot in a cinematic format with Africans who are doing excellent, just amazing things across the continent. I mean, in the diaspora, what have you. I would love to have you on that show. But the idea is for us to tell, to encourage us to tell our story. I think that's the most important thing, is that these stories grow legs so people can listen. So the first thing I would say, what you can do to help is to share. It's very important. It's not just liking, it's sharing. and exposing you
Very
to
nice.
your followers, and your followers
Yeah.
expose you to their followers.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. The second thing is right now, what I'm doing is with COVID-19, as a result of COVID-19, a lot of those creatives that we talk about deep in the trenches, they don't have any work. Most of them sell that art to feed their families.
Yeah.
I interviewed a photographer in Lagos just last week on my IG Live, and he lost his daughter about 8 months ago, and 2 weeks ago recently lost his mom. If you see his work, it will blow your mind. And every day I see him posting, and he's posting beautiful images. And I sent him a DM. I said, dude, you have to come on the show. I love your work. And not only that, I love your spirit. But I didn't know anything about his story. And for an hour, we talked on my Instagram Live, and this guy just broke down and talked about the challenges he was facing. And I realized one thing. He had a video on his Instagram where he was shooting a model with no lighting around. And I noticed in the comments, people were asking, why aren't you using light? And the pictures did come out beautiful, I might add. But the funny thing about it is, during the interview, he mentioned that he didn't have light because he doesn't have electricity. And people think he's doing it just to show off that he's a great photographer. You're not using any lighting, but you are taking nice images. But he did not have electricity. And I was just inspired by his resilience, by his story, and just the way he carried himself. I never said this anywhere. I never put it out, but I took care of the light bill, and it made me feel so good. It made me feel so good because I felt like I played a role in him being able to continue, to not stop. And I think that's what we have to do to everyone, not just creatives. People just need a pat on the back sometimes. People just want you to tell them they're doing well. I don't know you, but I think you're doing a great job. You have no idea how far that goes. So that's the call to action for everyone. Encourage someone. You don't have to know them. They don't have to be from your country. They don't have to be from your family. Just make it a habit. Do it one time a day. Just send someone a message. Say, hey, have I told you you're doing a great job today? That'll be my call to action for everyone. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I mean, this has been a fantastic chat, and we could go on forever, but I do want you to come back to the show later. And so I'll keep the rest for then. Before we do the 10 things, I want to announce to everyone, you're also launching a podcast, the African Creative Podcast.
Yes.
And so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I cannot wait to see that just take off like everything else you've done. So with the 10 questions, the reason why I came up with this is because I wanted to find an interesting way to get to know my guests and for the audience to get to know the guests as well. Okay. So what it is, Andre, is 10 questions, obviously, and I ask a question with 2 answers. You have to pick one. You can't pick both. You don't get to negotiate with me. Okay? Because it's my show. When you have me over at yours, you can have your own rules.
Absolutely.
So, you ready?
Let's go. Yep.
All right. For breakfast, puff puff with okra or akra banana with bongo chobi?
Man, I was getting ready to reject puff puff with okra, but I don't eat akra banana. So this is like case of 2 evils. I have to pick one.
Yes.
Wow. This is going to be a lot harder than I thought. I'll go with akra banana and bongo chobi because puff puff and okra is just wrong.
It just sounds wrong, right?
It just sounds wrong.
I know.
Oh, manage the akra banana. I love bongo chobi.
Okay. I had some last night.
Nice.
Manu Dibango or Miriam Makeba?
Manu Dibango.
Okay. Personality-wise, would you pick the personality of a lion or a shark?
I'll pick the personality of a lion. Yeah.
Okay. Nena Okori or Joanna Chumali?
I don't know any of those people.
Oh, you don't? We can skip that.
Okay.
For the beach, Speedos or trunks?
Oh, trunks.
No Speedos for
No
you?
Speedos for me. That's too much.
Say hashtag team too much. Given the option of delivering a keynote address or singing in public, which would you rather do? You know why I put this one in there.
I know why you put this one in there. The honest truth, what I would do, I would sing, which is
really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's saying a lot about how you feel about public speaking. Huh?
Yeah, I would sing.
Awesome. Awesome. So there was recently, I don't know if it was recent, but I watched this video on African Creative, which was about 8 types of people at an African party. I don't know if you saw it. It's hilarious.
Did. I'm actually interviewing that girl on Monday.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Hilarious. So among those 8 personalities, who do you most identify with? Is it the person who came to eat rice or the lit uncle?
It has to be those two?
Yes.
One out of the two?
Yes.
I'm definitely the lit uncle. I'm definitely the lit uncle.
In a competitive setting, would you rather face Serena at the US Open or Eliud at the New York Marathon?
I'll face Serena.
You face Serena?
Yeah.
Ooh, you are not scared of power. Okay.
Yes. I'll face Serena. I'd rather lose to Serena.
Does that mean you're afraid of running? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm terrified of running.
Okay. So things fall apart or the purple hibiscus.
Things fall apart. It's easy.
It's a classic, isn't it?
You can't go wrong with things fall apart.
I know. And then finally, Elvis Kemayou, because I just had to throw it in there, or Bendika.
Oh. I'm gonna have to go with Bendika. You can't deny those classics.
I know that
Elvis,
boy.
I love Elvis Kemayou, but he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that. What do you call it? He doesn't have that thing.
Thing
that's je ne sais quoi.
That's je ne sais quoi. He's been around for a really long time too. So
yeah.
But we did, because you didn't know the 2 people I mentioned in one, I do have a question that I have to round out then.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier in the show that you're thinking about maybe it's time to just up and leave. If you did, would you rather move back to Africa or would you move to Asia?
I would rather move back to Africa.
Okay.
100%.
All right. Well, this has been such a pleasure. Such a pleasure.
Man. And went by quick.
It did go by very quick. But I like my guests to have one final word before they go, if they have any. So anything you want to share with Mama Talk Talk's listeners and viewers before you take off. And I know this is your first podcast. You said this is the first one you've done. So the honor is mine, the privilege is mine. And so just thank you for doing this. Any final parting words?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for doing this. I think that I think you're doing an excellent job.
Thank you.
I think we all need a place where we could just hang out and chill, no applause, no audience, just relax. And that's how I felt. I felt really relaxed throughout the entire conversation. So Thank you for having me, first of all. I would just say that, first of all, look out for all the things that we have coming up. I have some products that I'm going to be releasing very soon. Like you mentioned, the podcast coming up. There's also going to be a YouTube channel. We're shooting our own original content now because, like I said earlier, we've been curating, but now we're getting to a point where we are actually, shooting our own original content. There are some beautiful stories that I'm going to put out to the world, and I'm just really, really excited about them and to see what the reaction is going to be. So look out for that within the next coming month.
Wonderful.
The last thing I would say is just, tell your stories. Talk to your sons, talk to your daughters, let them know who you are, let them know what you've been through, and let them know that, what you were is not who you're going to be tomorrow. But I think it
Yeah.
gives them kind of a roadmap, something to follow in case they go through that same situation. I think it's very important. And I think that is something that we've been ignoring for such a long time. And that's why others are telling our stories for us. It's time that we start changing our narrative. It's time that we start owning
Mm-hmm.
our own stories and telling it how we see it from our perspective. We're not
Mm-hmm.
denying their perspective. We're just saying that is not the only one. I
That's
think it's
not the
very,
only
very,
perspective.
it's just very, very important. So tell your stories. It's very important. Write a book, blog, podcasts, YouTube. Heck,
Do
leave a voice
something.
note. Just do something. Record each and every day.
Yeah, do something productive. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Dre, thank you so much. And I know it's late your time. And so I'll let you get back to your family and we'll stay connected. I know that this is just the beginning. We'll stay connected.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. Have a
All
great
right.
weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please share your thoughts in the comments below or email us at ab@mamatalktalk.com. Continue the conversation in your homes and communities. And when you join us next week, invite a friend or many. For more diverse perspectives on everyday issues from everyday people around the globe, subscribe to our podcast at mamatalktalk.com/a different take. And join our online family by following us on Twitter and Instagram. Until we meet again, I'm your host, AB Mambo. Sigashina, stay well.